I'm gonna have an unpopular opinion about this chick. There's a lot of spoilers in this video. But hi, I'm Dabby, but you can call me Dabz. Today I'm reviewing Normal People by Sally Rooney. So this book is about Connell and Marianne, and Connell's mother works as a housekeeper for Marianne's family. But when a connection grows between the two, Connell is determined to hide it from his schoolmates, mainly because he is a popular, well-liked athlete, while Marianne is more of a loner. The people at school don't really like her. But a year later, they're separated from each other, but they both study at Trinity College. Yet this time, Marianne seems to have found her group, while Connell struggles to build relationships. Yet the lives of the two protagonists do not stop colliding. So let me start by saying something that I did enjoy about this book is I enjoyed the dialogue. I thought that it was for the most part pretty clever and I liked reading it. She also doesn't put any quotation marks in this book or I think any of her other books. And although at first I was a bit taken aback by this, her writing, the way that she wrote made it very clear where the dialogue was and who was saying it. Like it wasn't super confusing. Maybe there were a couple parts, but for the most part I enjoyed how that small aspect also represented a larger theme of miscommunication in this book, and I thought that her dialogue in general was like enjoyable to read. So speaking of miscommunication, if you don't like that trope in books or movies or whatever, put this book down like right now. Like don't read it, because maybe I just don't like miscommunication, but it was like painful to the point where it felt like there was no plot development or character development. It just got repetitive. It was like they get together, they break up, they get with someone else, they break up because like no one else is like you, and they get together again. And it's just like repeat and repeat. Because I mean, some of the miscommunication I could understand. Like there were some parts of it where I understand why this is important to their characters, but other parts I just thought were so unnecessary. Like this is a small spoiler, kind of a big spoiler. But there was one part where Connell was trying to ask Marianne if he could move in with her. And I don't understand why he couldn't just say it, or like why she couldn't just like, it was just not necessary, I felt, in some times, and it was just frustrating, I think, for the readers. So while I thought the beginning of this book was pretty interesting, I was intrigued by the story in the beginning, the two characters in the beginning, but by the time I got to around the middle of the book, it personally just got so boring for me, and I think that's the main reason that I dislike this book, is because I appreciated the way that it talked about relationships. I appreciated its attempt to discuss like social classes and gender norms and all of these other prevalent issues in society, but I could not get over the fact that I was just so bored. And I think that when you're reading a book, especially a fiction book, such a big reason as to why people read is to be entertained and like find it interesting, and it was just boring. So I thought the writing style of this book was very interesting. I thought that there were points that I enjoyed and points where I thought it was just kind of odd. I kind of have mixed emotions about it, and I know people in general have very mixed emotions. There's some people that like the writing style a lot and some people that thought it was weird. And I'm not sure where I fall on that spectrum, because it was like nothing I've ever read before. The way that she writes, I don't know, it's just the only way to explain it is like it's interesting. And if you read it, you'll kind of understand what I mean, but I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad thing. And also, fair warning that there's a lot of sex in this book. On some level, I understood how that was metaphorical of their desire for each other, and how it was almost like they couldn't say that they wanted each other for whatever reason, so they showed it instead. But I felt like some of those scenes were not necessary. Like, I think scenes like that can be done very well in some books, and they are, but in this book it wasn't always done well. There's a lot of spoilers in this video, but another one's coming up. So I also think that the characters themselves were so self-absorbed. I think that's the best way to explain it. Like, I didn't feel myself getting super attached to these characters. Like, for example, this is the spoiler. There was one part where a character says to Marianne, one of Marianne's friends, she says that she was never really part of Marianne's friend group. She was just friends with Marianne. And Marianne just kind of says, oh, I never really noticed that. And it's like, how do you not notice that about your friend? Like, maybe I get it, but it just, that goes to show, along with other parts of the book, that these characters, they only cared about themselves and their relationships with the two, like each other. And it just, a book like that makes for a book that's very one-dimensional, I guess. Like the story, the only story in this book felt like it was Marianne and Connell's relationship, and there were aspects of other things like Marianne's family life or their friends that could have been explored deeper, but they just weren't. Another thing is, this is less of a spoiler, but might be depending on how you view spoilers, but it feels like they almost didn't resolve their issues. Like the resolution of their issues was simply to get together at the spoiler, they get together at the end, kind of. But when they get together nearing the end, Marianne and Connell still have the same problems that they did before. There's no character development. They don't really talk about and resolve their communication issues. So one thing I will end off by saying is that I did really like the parallels in this book, specifically what Connell and Marianne offered to each other. So Connell in this story comes from like a low middle income family, but his mother offers him unconditional love, while Marianne she has all the economic opportunity that she wants in the world. But her brother and her mother are very verbally abusive to her. And Connell and Marianne, when they're in their relationship with each other, Connell often offers Marianne that unconditional love that she wasn't able to have, while Marianne offers him kind of opportunity. She encourages him to go to Trinity to study English. She encourages him at the end of the book. So I liked that parallel of like they got from each other what they never really got from their family. I thought that was a nice way to wrap things up. So that was one thing I liked. So I also am a couple episodes into the show. There's a show on, I think it's on Hulu, of Normal People, and it stars Paul Mescal and Daisy Edgar Jones, and I can say that it's exactly the same as the book. I think that some of the dialogue, like I recognize the same exact dialogue from the book. It's like to a T, so far to a T, it's the same. I'm only a couple episodes in. But the show, I'd say, is a little less painful to watch than reading the book, just because there's no odd writing to get through, and also at least like Paul Mescal is nice to look at. But it's still very, very similar to the book. It's not like a super new, fresh take on the book. But simply because I was frustrated and bored with this book, I ended up giving it 2 stars. So I didn't really love it. But I don't know. If you really like miscommunication as a trope, maybe try it out. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it, and I also just don't think that they did it well. But it's kind of weird because I did not like this book very much, but I want to read Sally Rooney's other books. Like, I'm very interested in reading Conversations with Friends and Intermezzo. I don't know why. After not liking this book, I want to read them, but I kind of do. So, but that would be the end of my book review. If you like this video, then like this video and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and happy reading. I'm so tired.